Come along and ride this train. Come along and ride this train. Across the mountains, prairies, reservation, rivers, levees, plains. Come along and ride this train. Ride this train. Ride this train with me to the Oklahoma Panhandle. The day is Armistice Day, the year 1933. The land is in a terrible drought. No rain has fallen for months. Wells have gone dry. The grass is burned brown and the earth is parched and cracked. On that day in 1933, a mighty dust storm, the great black blizzard, they called it, swept down from South Dakota across Nebraska, Kansas, and Oklahoma, blowing topsoil clear out into the Gulf of Mexico. And the raging winds blew dust so high into the heavens that from New York to Florida, the sky turned dark and the sun grew blood red. A lot of people thought it was the end of time. They thought the moon had turned to blood. The western plains became a howling, ravished, windswept wasteland, and they called it the Dust Bowl. And we heard the reports on the radio of a great mysterious storm, and disaster started blowing across our Oklahoma farm. Black wind arising, listen to that death-like moan, fills the road and blackens the sun. It killed my crops, it ruined the farm. 20 years of my life just blowed away. Hope that old black wind will blow out someday. But the storms never let up. Dust was everywhere. It filled the barns, covered the tractors with drifts 8 feet deep. There was no escaping it. It forced its way into the houses, in the food, in the beds. People were choking to death from lack of air. Mothers desperately tried nailing oilcloths over the windows and stuffing rags around the doors, hoping to keep this black death out of the lungs of their babies while they slept. But in the morning, dust would lay in ripples like sand on a beach right across the kitchen floor. As the weeks turned into years, the Great Plains became a no man's land. Crops withered, wildlife vanished, and the livestock lay dead and abandoned, slowly being covered over by the drifting sand and dust. The only life that remained was a grim and a weary people, praying for rain and hoping for a miracle. The soil by howling wind was torn from rows where once we planted corn, and left the naked sod remains like a sun-bleached skeleton on the plain. Black wind arising, listen to that death-like moan, fills the road and blackens the sun. It killed my crops, it ruined my farm. 20 years of my life just blowed away. Hope that old black wind will blow out someday. For 5 years the winds blew, and with nothing left to keep them on the farms, people began to pack up and leave. California to the west was the promised land. And soon the highways were lined up with Model T Fords, 1927 LaSalles, piled high with mattresses, pots, pans, kids, dogs, chickens, and a bunch of Carter family records. All their worldly goods tied to the car running board and bulging suitcases and stuffed flour sacks. Okies, they called them. And it's said that as many as 500,000 left the Dust Bowl in those hard and dirty years. California cotton fields, where the labor camps were full of worried men with broken dreams. California cotton fields was as close to wealth as Daddy ever came. Almost everything we had was sold or left behind, from Daddy's plow to the fruit that Mama canned. Some folks came to say farewell and see what all we had to sell, but some just came to shake my daddy's hand. Well, the Model A was was loaded down and California bound, and a change of luck was just 4 days away. But the only change that I remember seeing for my daddy was when his dark hair turned to silver gray. California cotton fields, where the labor camps were full of worried men with broken dreams. California cotton fields was as close to wealth as Daddy ever came. And today the green grass waves where the drifting sand once piled high. The families have come back, long since returned, and a lot of the mistakes that were made of overworking the land and not respecting the balance of nature has been corrected. Trees have been planted, crops rotated, and the terrible wasteland of the 30s is once again a fertile pasture of plenty. In the end, it was the unconquerable will of the Western farmer and stockman who won out over the hardships of nature. And today, the great dust storms are just a bad memory. But hey, you people out there in liberal Kansas, Hooker, Oklahoma, Dalhart, Texas, I know there's a lot of you tonight that still remember when. Black wind arising, listen to that death-like moan, fills the road and blackens the sun. It killed my crops, ruined the farm. 20 years of my life just blowed away. Hope that old black wind will blow out someday. Take it easy, Okies. God bless you.